Welcome to Free Switch Training Part 6. Today we will learn what is a zip profile, how do we define users in directory folder in Free Switch, and how do we write dial plan. We will register a soft phone in our Free Switch and we will call an extension number to test our setup. First, let's learn what is a zip profile. In zip profiles, we defined what IP address and port Free Switch should listen for zip packets and, of course, for registrations. Zip profiles are defined in Free Switch configuration folder /zip_profiles. For example, here I defined a zip profile and I named it OMID. It will process all domains. It will listen on my public IP address on a specific port of 5070. As you know, the standard port of zip is 5060, but here I defined a profile, I named it OMID, that I want to listen to port 5070. It should authenticate all the calls, and after authentication, if the registration was successful, it will send them to the public context. We will learn about context later in the dial plan. In order to load the profile, we need to connect to the Free Switch console using the fs_cli command and start OMID profile by using command Sophia profile name start. For example, here my profile name is OMID, and to start it, I connected to Free Switch console using fs_cli command, and I started the profile using Sophia profile OMID start. As you can see, the OMID started successfully, and it will create some aliases that we will learn in the directory part. Let me show you very quickly what we have learned in my testing server. I SSH to my server. I want to go to etc Free Switch. I want to check my zip profile, so I will go to etc Free Switch cd zip profiles. Here I have a zip profile omid.xml. Let's view it. In the omid.xml, I have defined the zip profile. It should process all the domains, what IP address it's listening on, what is the port, this is very important, 5070, and I want to authenticate all the calls and send them to the context public. So before I start the profile, if I run netestat-na grep 5070, I will see that the Free Switch is not listening on this port because the profile is not started. To start the profile, you need to connect to Free Switch console, fs_cli. Let's set the log level to info because we don't want to see a lot of debug commands. And let's start the profile by command Sophia profile name that is here is OMID start. As you can see, the zip profile is started successfully, and if I quit by 3 dots, you can quit the console. And if I run netestat-na grep 5070, you can see that the Free Switch is now listening on port 5070. The next step is to define users so that our zip endpoints can authenticate themselves against our Free Switch. All users are defined in directory folder in Free Switch. Free Switch is a multi-tenant telephony system. It means you can use the same server for different domains or companies. Here, I defined a domain company.a.omid.blog that is pointing to my public IP address. I created a file which name is company.a.xml, and I specified the dial string, some variables, and finally, where to look for users. So it will look for users in a subfolder company-a/start.xml. So all users will be in company-a, and the format will be XML. For example, here in etc Free Switch directory company-a, I create a user 1000.xml with minimum tags required. I define the ID, I set the password, and also the context. If I don't set the context, if I don't set the context here, it will set the context of the user as public. If you can recall, the public was the context we set in Omid SIP profile. Let's practice the same scenario in my testing server. We'll go to etc free switch directory. Here I have defined two files for this lab. We just define the company A. We just work with the company A. So I will open company A.xml. Here you can see that I have defined the domain and also some options. They are optional. You can just define them or just don't use them. And I told the system that all the files for this domain will be processed in the folder company-a. Company-a.omid.blog is a actually subdomain that I have defined in my DNS. You can put your IP address if you don't want to test multi-tenant. For example, if I ping company-a.omid.blog, it will bring back my public IP address. So instead of the domain, you can use IP address as well. But here, because in the next lab, I want to teach you how the multi-tenancy is working in the free switch, I used domain instead of the IP address. If I go to company A folder, I have a user 1000 here. User 1000 has the minimum options that we need for a user. For example, here I define the user ID 1000, the password abc.1000, use a secure password, not the password like this if you don't want to get hacked. And also the user context that is company A. This user context overrides the context that we have in SIP profiles. If you can recall, in our SIP profiles, when we have defined the omid.xml, the omid profile, we gave a context here as well as public. This public will be set if you don't set a context in your directory structure. Okay. After I have changed the configuration, I need to log into the free switch console. Let's set the log level to 6. It's not mandatory, but it won't show you a lot of debug commands. And you need to run the command reload XML. If you don't run this command, it won't read the information of the files that you have changed. So that's a necessary part that you need to do it. So now our free switch is ready and we can register a soft phone into our, or an IP phone into our free switch. Let's do so. 1000 at company a.omid.blog, port 5070, because we are listening on non-standard port 5070. And the password was abc1000. Yes. Login. I'm using Zapier here, by the way. I think you are already familiar with that. And we set the host name. We don't need any proxy server. And as you can see, it is registered on the TCP port 5070. So the user is registered. What's the next step? We need to tell the system what to do when we are calling any extension or any other phones. That's the dial plan. In dial plan, we define what should happen if a SIP endpoint calls a number. Here I created a file company a.xml in etc free switch dial plan. etc free switch dial plan is the default folder for all dial plans in the free switch. I specified the context, company-a. I created two extensions. One extension name is hello world, that if a SIP endpoint calls 123456, it will log an entry in the console, in the FSCLI, and it will play back a file in the free switch. This file will be installed when you are installing the free switch. It's a default WAV file. So These log and playbacks are applications. They are very human readable. We will learn more about these applications in the next videos, but as you can see, you should understand how it works. Or for example, I created another extension, internal calls, that if SIP endpoints call any extension number between 1000 to 1009, this is a regular expression. If you don't know what is it, you need to watch the video 5 of this training series. I explained about regular expressions. So if a SIP endpoint calls 1000 to 1009, it will bridge the channels in the same domain. In other words, it will call the other extensions. Let's take a look at our dial plan in our testing server. So I'm going to etc free switch dial plan. Here I have different dial plans. The one that I need now is the company8.xml. It's not necessary that the file name and the context are the same. It's not necessary at all. I just put it the same so that I can I will understand that better. So here is the company8.xml. I define the context. I define the extensions hello world. It will play back a file, and also internal calls that it will bridge the actual channels between my SIP endpoints. I have created another user. If you can recall, the users are in the directory company A. I created another user 1001, so I can register my mobile phone in my server and I can make a call. So in order to do that, you can just copy 1000 to 1001 and change the user ID. Don't forget to reload XML after you have defined the dial plan. So fscli reload XML and exit by 3 dots. Okay, now let's give it a try. I registered my mobile as 1001, but before that we had an extension 123456. You can call 123456 from your Zoiper.
Contact us at www.freeswitchsolutions.com to see how we can help you take your FreeSwitch experience to the next level.
As you can see, it played a file and also it logs. That was the console, that was the log that we have in our dial plan. 1000 from company A called 123456, and also it plays this file. This is a default file that we have in the actually free switch. So this is 123456, and if I call 1001, 1001 is the number of the other SIP account that I have registered on my mobile. If I call it, yes, you can see here, of course you cannot see, but I can see that 1001 is ringing, and I can answer the call, and have a conversation. Okay, so this is a complete lab on how you can register your phones into your free switch. In a way, you should understand how the multi-tenant works here as well. Because, for example, if you want to have multiple SIP accounts, multiple companies in one server, what you need to do is just to have different directories. For example, here I have company A and company B, and different dial plan for each company. This is what we call it multi-tenant. So I can register both with company A and company B on the same server. Of course, it's not limited to two profiles. It can be any number of profiles. That's the actually power of free switch, that if you have, for example, worked with the asterisk, that's very hard to implement. But here it's supported by default. That's the beauty of the free switch. Thank you very much for watching the videos. If you have any question, please put in the comments. Thank you and goodbye.